Welcome, everyone, to Portal to Another Dimension, the podcast that opens gateways to uncharted dimensions, theories, and is your passport to the unknown. And you've just stepped into the portal. I'm Drago Reid, your host and navigator through these many mysteries that lie beyond the depths of our understanding and the unexplored territories of truth. So sit back and enjoy the ride as I peel back the veil of reality, where each episode becomes your portal to unlocking forbidden knowledge, the secrets within, and the keys to awakening that lies dormant within you. Buckle up, my friends, because everything you thought you knew will change from this moment on as I unravel and unweave the threads to the cosmic play in this convoluted multiverse. Welcome to Humans 2.0. Welcome to the new reality. Today's July 24th, 2026, and I'm broadcasting from the Citadel in Tampa, Florida. And today we have an amazing special guest, a pioneer, a trailblazer, and his name is Tom Althouse, the creator and original writer of the Matrix movie franchise, which he called the Immortals. Tom Althouse is an American screenwriter, playwright, actor, and the author best known for writing The Immortals, the original title for the screenplay that was the conceptual foundation for the Matrix franchise. For more than 2 decades, Tom has spoken extensively about his work being appropriated and stolen by Hollywood, making him a prominent and often controversial voice in discussions surrounding intellectual property, creative ownership, and the film industry. Beyond his film work, Tom has written stage productions, has appeared as an actor, and continues to speak publicly about storytelling, symbolism, faith, creativity, and his personal experiences that have shaped his life and career. He has been featured on numerous independent podcasts and media platforms discussing the Immortals, Hollywood, the creative process, and his ongoing efforts to bring greater attention to his work. Today, Tom continues to write, create, and advocate for artists' rights, while sharing his perspective on one of the most debated authorship disputes in modern science fiction and history. Welcome to the show, my friend.
No, it's an honor to be here. This is so great to be here. There's a lot to cover and some blow-away discoveries too I want to share in the meantime. Go ahead.
Yeah, man, we had met about a year and a half, 2 years ago at the Full Disclosure Now conference, and we just hit it off from the beginning, man. It was like discovering an old friend, and like I'm hitting you up with
Mhm.
questions that no one ever asked you before. You're like, oh my God, your questions are next level. And like, it's been an honor to connect with you, man, and to hear your story. Your presentation was amazing. You speak with passion like I do. We're really
Mhm.
emotional based creatures, and we've had everything
Mhm.
taken from us, man. So, like, before we get into the lawsuits, Hollywood, and everything that's happening over
Mhm.
the last 3 decades, I like to start where this great story begins, like your origin story.
Mhm.
Who was Tom Althouse before any of this happened? And what inspired you to write The Immortals, which would later be known as The Matrix?
Well, one of the interesting things was my life was a quandary right from the start, where I thought I was almost like retarded. I was told basically that I was, just nothing, a failure. I mean, right from the start. But I was tested later as gifted genius. So I went through that quandary of having that abilities and that cognitive high scale, where I was treated as if I was some kind of moron. And so that dichotomy set the stage for a different way of thinking, a different approach to the world. And thank God it happened because that allowed for exactly what the Matrix became, or the Immortals actually fed into, is that idea that this world we're in right now, this reality doesn't seem matched with what actually who we are and our core, our heart, the gifts we have. And so it also changed it into Draco, where I wanted to make through art, a world where those like ourselves would fit in it by reconditioning the landscape through that reality of that art creation, creating a different world through art that we fit, that has it. And it basically even worked in stolen form. So lifting all the imagery, which was what the Wachowskis who claimed they wrote it with Warner Brothers, took all the imagery, passing the imagery along and screwing up the scenes. Still, the imagery carried the day. And I think that's what people remember, the iconic scenes, the iconic characters, and the iconic concepts. That still carried the message of that was centered from that young boy who realized he needed a world where he would fit.
So, did this come from a lifetime of you being in the programs to discover these themes? Because I noticed when I met you, a lot of the stuff from the Matrix is everything we went through in the programs, like the programming themes, like Alice in Wonderland, taking the drugs and going into different realities, going down that Alice in Wonderland rabbit hole. So, what's your story connected to the programs?
Oh, absolutely. And if you mix in the religious elements of that too, Sunday school programming, home programming, culture programming, school education, public school education programming. The idea was you had to be perfect, you had to be athletic, you had to be obedient, you had to have a blind faith in what God was, as described by Hollywood and the church. And it was just like, well, so that was what took me into there must be something more, there must be something different. And I wanted to work through, I saw art as something that was not controlled and programmed yet. I saw art was something the programmers didn't understand. That was our avenue, our conduit to break free the cages they were putting us in mentally. So I saw that as something I went for. And that just grabbed me, along with the idea of history being honest and real, that you can immerse into real history, not refabricated where the winners write it, and also nature, communicating with nature. It was like, it was this whole world that was set apart from the one that was manufactured and that we were being programmed in. And so it was breaking out of a matrix, if you will, by resetting our idea of what the matrix was and the world we were in was, and going away from the architects into our own creation, our own world. Through art, we could do that. And so that's how I faced the programming. I realized that it was actually, as a small child, was saying, this is boring. This is really boring what they're trying to set up. It's low level, low thinking, uninspiring. And I wanted to do something I realized that would be addictive, which would be a freeing world where it would be dynamic, where we felt in layers, where like like you said about earlier, our passions. Yeah. If I'm going to get up to speak, you're going to get up to speak, we're going to be passionate, because that's what the new world needs, which is what the world should always have been. You take it even further. It's like interactions between couples or children and parents and things like this, or friends, or people of different nations. It's like if you have that passion and it's agreed upon, you're allowed to have those layers of feeling, then the dynamics are unending. Nothing will ever get boring. It's like life will never get stale because our very own interactions will fuel the excitement for being alive.
Did you ever discover that you were in need? Do you ever went through the MK Ultra programs?
Yes, it was done in a different way. It seems that there's two tiers at least, not to simplify it too much. But if you're considered to be one of the elite, which how many times did I hear that phrase? You're one of the elite now. You're one of the elite. You're given a different set of program parameters, if you will, if I'm using it correctly, the idea, than others. There's a tiers to it, I see, it seems. And so if you're in the upper tier with potentials in art and things like this, and cognitive thinking. Like there was a program I just watched called The Last Ship, which my son says, this is terrible, Dad. But I was like, no, it's kind of cool. It actually put that in there, that the one person said they were eliminating at the stadiums, which I talked about in the screenplay. The stadiums would be used to eliminate population that they no longer wanted. They were saying they did that because they wanted the rare ones that are the thinkers, the artists, and the scientists, and we've got those things pretty well cornered. So we're the Renaissance people. They were considered by the elite to be the rare and the ones that need to be protected. But the only way we get the card is if we're controllable, if we're not thinking free and we're not trying to help those outside those parameters. So if that makes any sense, that's what I realized fully. The only avenue again was art that I could see. The only reason, and that was the final frontier, basically, that was open to shaping our world apart from the gripping, grasping control of the elite, because they can't create. So it's almost like Neo in the story, which I had put in the Immortals, where he goes in to try to make a difference when he's told not to, but he makes a difference from inside the program because he's considered invaluable by the architect because of his attributes. So that's what I kept being told. Don't care about the rest. I told him I can't help that. That's my core. That's what makes me create better, is because I care about all the others. So that's what they couldn't grasp. Anyway, back to you.
I like how you said that they couldn't create, because we've seen that this little matrix overlay, this hologram we're in, was co-created by the Archons. And the Archons by default cannot create at all. They need to bastardize us and use our imagination to power their world. And without that loosh, without that energy, without that battery, the world ceases to exist. And they consider themselves the architects of this reality, which they are not. I love how the theme of the architect is in the movie, because in the MK Ultra program, the main programmer is referred to as the architect. He's also
Right.
called Papa. And they create your entire world. And the
Yeah.
entire Matrix movie, from what we've seen, is from a programmer on down. You start with Neo being introduced in an altar. He forgets who he is. He's Neo, and he's also the one, the amalgamation of the one. And I noticed how the entire story follows Christianity, it follows Greek mythology. All
Mm-hmm.
these themes are all in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's woven quite magnificently how you actually created all this. So when this stuff originally started coming in with all the things you went through in your life, do you feel you channeled this information, or do you feel that you took from themes of your life and you had to create all this? Because when I first talked to you, I kept psychically feeling that this came to you and it
Yes.
was coming from another source.
Yes.
How did that process actually start with
Well,
you?
very astute what you just, realized and said, because that's exactly how it was. Go back to the childhood again. I wasn't allowed to play with anybody. Chores were my playtime. I go out and look at grass, try to communicate with animals. So what I was doing was I was in a world where I tried to open myself up to what is possible, ask more questions than deliver answers. I tried to open myself to the world and see what would be fed back, because it didn't seem right. It seemed plastic, static, fake. So I wanted to find a real world where our heart starts pounding and our mind starts being stimulated and we start feeling like there's amazing connections. So that's what I was seeking, even as a 5-year-old. And so what's interesting is that through that journey, I started to apply myself in the writing as searching for that, looking for other people that feel the same way, that we might send a code through a piece of art in the end that might gather us together, that they might see those mashed potatoes on the plate in Close Encounters and go, that's where we're supposed to go, and gather a remnant of those that actually have the heart, compassion, and that openness and the childlike wonder to make the world better, to solve its problems and everything else. So that's why, I don't think when the film studio said they didn't understand the work, I don't think they ever can understand the work until they have a total change of focus and being and where their heart is. Give me your question again, because you took me into another layer which I had to address. So give me it again so I can give it justice.
Yeah, so basically, when I first met you, I blew you away because no one's ever asked you this question before. No one's ever asked you if you channeled this information from another source, and your eyes lit
Yes.
up in a way that you said, "Oh my God, Drago, like that's the most important question I've been asked in my life." And like I knew at that point, because psychically when I was reading you, I
Right.
kept seeing this information was coming from somewhere, and it was allowing you to tell an unknown story about yourself that was so convoluted, even you didn't know the details of it until later on in
Yes.
life now.
And that's the beauty of it. It never gets boring, never gets old. And you just took me right back to it perfectly, because as a child, I was preparing the ground for the channeling through. And so you're absolutely right. And so the whole process prepared me. When your synapses are forming as a young being, it's like everything was prepared for the receiving of that channel through. And it worked. It was amazing. And then what I didn't realize was it was being prepared in layers. I thought all people thought in layers. Now I understand that geniuses are tested with that cognitive layered ability to conceive of different things and see at different things, even problem solving in multiple facets and applications. That's what I was going through. And I didn't see anybody around me that had that, even my family line, except my mom. So I was like, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a piece that's going to challenge Hollywood, where it's not going to be the total playbook that Disney has, boy gets girl, girl loses girl, hero is standing on the pedestal at the end, being admired on the pinnacle. No, I want to do something where he doesn't succeed, and the woman actually helps save him. And the Wachowskis latched onto that. They wanted to try that, but they didn't understand the work. So it's like I wanted to do something where it took us again outside of ourselves, where we opened up to what's possible, and doing that on a worldwide scale, saying, look, I don't have the answers, but I'm going to ask a lot of questions through really cool art and effects. How about that? And that would draw people in together. They needed a focal point to draw to. And that's why the gathering was promised of a remnant that had those qualities. But there is a meeting that they talked about with the Wachowskis in 1995. Author wrote about this. An article was done where the suits of Warner Brothers said, we know we have something cool. We don't understand it. Can you explain it to us? The Wachowskis could not explain it. They left the table. Joel Silver tried and said, well, it's robots in the program. He got that wrong. Later, after having all our work in that case that was thrown, where they supplied the attorney with a suspended license, all defense attorneys, to make sure we didn't claim Matrix 1, only the sequels, which you're never going to win if you're just claiming the sequels. And so then they had all our work, and that's when Joel Silver got it right, robot-like agents in the program. But it's incredible that even the Wachowskis in that interview said, nobody understands the screenplay, and they didn't either. But remember how you said something about how they, when I think it was something about how they translate it and they don't have the creative abilities, all these guys that were ripping stuff off. Can I show you something from original work?
Please.
Okay, I'm going to give you an example. Here is the original copyrighted work, which drives them crazy because, I mean, this is 128 pages. And what happened was, because they supplied their own attorneys, they entered 8 pages of scribbled notes that I couldn't even read. And they said, that's Tom's screenplay. No, it's not. This is. And it's at the Copyright Office under that PA number, 2304074. So it's right there. It's 128 pages. So they entered 8 pages of scribbled notes and had the judge rule on that. And then there ran these articles everywhere, their own news sources worldwide, saying, oh, he lost his case with prejudice. There's no similarities. And let me read to you something we just discovered with our doc team. I got to show you this. So first of all, I think I'll start with my piece first. So I'm opening this up. It's bolted everything. There's no way it can be forgery. And it's stamped with the Copyright Office. Let me read the first page opening. You ready? Gliding through pillars of clouds. Gliding through pillars of clouds, a vast canopy of trees below, as Amazon rainforest, appears on the screen. We lower to the canopy, through the leaves into the ground, where the light is noticeably subdued. Now, let's look at the Wachowskis with Matrix Reloaded. Listen to this. Dark clouds below the inky remnants of the scorched sky. We hail as we sail like a glider over the black atmosphere. We dive down into the murkiness through the clouds into the world of the dead. You both have gliding. You both have diving down. You both have doing the subdued light. What my one beautiful friend, manager girl, Jen Marie, was saying is this is like an AI re-rendering of what you just heard from the original. I mean, even gliding's used. And I like, instead of murkiness, I like where the light's subdued. I like it better than the original. So mine submitted in 93, and they tried to argue that Matrix Reloaded and the other revolutions was all done in 93 as a seamless piece. Well, this piece right here that was done in 2003 wasn't written in 93. In fact, there wasn't even a plan for sequels in 93. My work was done in 93, submitted in 93 fully. And you got this battle going on with them saying, oh, yeah, it was one seamless piece, their attorneys say. But we have a script now, this is one of the discoveries, of a second Matrix they were trying to write and failed, which has an opening not like ours here, but Neo and Trinity on a motorcycle, and the Smiths are shooting it up, and it disintegrates in the air, and the Wachowskis thought it was cool to have them still like they're riding through the air on the motorcycle as it disintegrated, which is absolutely asinine and stupid and juvenile. But then they threw in also that Neo has been taken, Thomas A., and his DNA or something has been taken, and the Smiths create another second Neo called Gregory to destroy him and train him. Okay, fine. That's their take to do Matrix 2, the second installment, which is not from 93. That's 2001. They're working on it. The fine thing here is that I'm Thomas A., and my friend that worked on the script with me for the battle sequences was Greg. So just mocking that too. And then when I resubmitted my work in 2001, they scrapped that version in 2001, and you have the exact opening of my resubmitted work right there in 2003. So this, what I'm saying is we got them now on perjury and lies, both their attorneys, their executives, Wachowskis, Joel Silver, who's the producer, for trying to claim it was all seamless when I submitted in 93, that they had it seamless in 93. So we got them. We have the copyright, they don't. Sorry for the long-winded explanation, but I think this is pretty cool. Pretty cool. Can I read it one more time? I just want to put this through. Just want to put it through.
Yes, definitely.
So Immortals is gliding through the pillars of clouds, a vast canopy of trees below, As the Amazon rainforest, in quotes, appear on the screen, we lowered the canopy through the leaves into the ground where the light is noticeably subdued. Music ends. So there it is right there. And there's the certified thing that can't be denied. And here is Matrix Reloaded. And I'll put it up there for a second so people can see it's there. And this is the very opening statement, like you just heard that opening statement in the screenplay. Dark clouds below the inky remnants of the scorched sky. We hail as we sail like a glider over the black atmosphere. We dive down into the murkiness through the clouds. I mean, come on. Come on. So they have the exact ending where the little girl comes back and points to the sun, where the identical figures faced off, a pulse wave comes after turning the earth green, and that is exactly the last pages of this right here. So they bookended our screenplays. Look at this we found now. They bookended it. Exact opening, exact end. Gary Klausner is full of shit. The judge is corrupt because he was hired by Warner Brothers to do the ruling he did. And they've supplied their own attorneys with suspended license, all defense attorneys, to make sure 8 pages of scribbled notes were ruled upon. Now we get to finally bring in the full scripts. Okay, back to you.
So the gliding and the flying at the end of the movie, all that stuff, it's beyond obvious that that was usurped from your information. So the original screenplay you released back in 1993, at what point did you know that your screenplay was stolen from you and this was going to become a large production against your will without your credit?
Well, this is where they battle me hard too. They try to say that, oh, you knew this in what was it, 98, 99.
Yeah, that's when you submitted the copyright, right? 1998.
Yeah. So 99 is when it comes out. My copyright is in I created it in 93. It's registered as 92. I have entries for copyrights on different versions of it from 95 and 90, 96, 90, 98. So the 98 version right here, which is stamped December 98, December 22nd, 98, is used on set 99. So when I first saw Matrix was when I was on tour for the Shakespeare National Tours, SSE. And so that was like an international touring company, which we did Shakespeare. It was really cool, universities and such. And so I went to see Matrix and I got sick and nauseous in it. I saw the jacks of the neck, but that wasn't enough to go on. So I didn't see it fully. Later, I was approached by Warner Brothers defense attorneys, who pretended not to be Warner Brothers, that brought in a honeypot wife too, named Rebecca Northcutt, who the attorney for Warner Brothers was a landlord of on Maui. Get it? And then so she comes in, they come in, and they're like, you need to look, your work was ripped off. Here's a little girl at the train station. Here's a little girl pointing the sun. I'm like, oh my God, what do we do? Or that's in 2009 at the 10-year statute from 1999. So there's a 10-year statute for discovery. They made me discover it so that they can then represent me, their own attorneys, defense attorneys, was one with a suspended license, so they can control the process and the outlet and enter 8 pages scribbled notes instead of all my work, while allowing Joel Silver and the Wachowskis to have all copies of my work and me explaining it. It's incredible what they were able to pull off. So that's how I got, and then they bragged, I got a tape from an inside court guy who's talking on the tape recorder saying, yeah, they were in bragging as they copied off their evidence that you have no idea how much you're being screwed, that you're worth 500 million at that point, and they have your attorney in their pocket. And yeah, so that was like, wow, okay. So, and also that the same ones that ripped me off ripped off Avatar. Now I tried to let the Avatar attorneys know this, but they didn't play ball. So
let's talk about how let's talk about how James Cameron fits in all this as well.
Oh my God, yeah, James
Cameron. Rabbit hole in itself.
Oh my God, yeah. So he's one attaching on to the remakes of the Matrix stuff too, where they're trying to come in. He's attached to that with Avatar, where they blended. Here's the trick: you blend the genius behind Avatar. Their creators are blended with My Immortals, and they blend it on purpose. So if you're going to contest, you have to contest with each other. 2 innocent parties that create are then thrown into the pit and watch the pit bull fight. So that's what they're doing, is they put jacks to the back of the neck through the braided hair, Priya memories, like I had the library of memories. They're bringing in even the names of the characters, Tom and everything else. They're baiting us to take each other on, see? And that's why I didn't think of it till now. I'm glad you brought it up. That's probably why they fed me that from the inside guy at the records office at Western Division Courts in California, because he actually was endorsed by Warner Brothers attorneys for litigation support on his LinkedIn. His name was Frank Ayala. a big exec in the Discovery and copy center things. So anyway, they were purposely setting us against each other, saying, look, this is ripped off and you're ripped off with Avatar. They ripped you both off. So they're trying to get us to come to head and say, oh, there's my stuff, there's my stuff. And both parties would be right. In Avatar, yes, they mixed us in together. So I don't think people realize how the intellectual theft has really evolved into a very complex system and procedure where they're actually pitting people against each other and even doubling people. It's so much I could tell you about. Where even Mike Lang of Disney has a double Mike Lang of Disney. I'm not saying it's a clone. I'm saying it's another guy named Mike Lang of Disney listed as Southern California millionaire. There's only one millionaire from Southern California named Mike Lang, and that's the Disney exec that was over the guy that was caught for pedophile stuff. Anyway, so you got, which is a lot of them. So you got these doubling down. So if you go after the one they're pointing you to, saying there's Mike Lang in Spokane, Washington, you're going after Mike Lang that is listed as Southern California millionaire, but they're going to have another guy standing in so that anything you send him will be null and void. It'll take up your time chasing white rabbits. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense because you're basically responsible for a $3 to $4 billion franchise. Just the Matrix series alone is worth at least 1.2 billion. Then getting into the Avatar stuff, and you're right. It shows consciousness to clone transfer in the Matrix. It shows consciousness to clone transfer in Avatar, the going back between realities and beings. And like, you're right, man. Like, when this lawsuit originally happened, how was it not constituted a mistrial? Because number one, there's conflict of interest. There's attorneys without licenses. There's
Right.
there's the conflict of interest about your attorney being represented by Warner Brothers and then
Right.
making sure you burn. How could that not gone through the appeal process and show that this was set up to fail from the beginning? What
What they do
prevented
is
that from happening?
great question. They make sure, first of all, you don't have any litigation support, that you don't have attorneys. They take you, and after they rip you off, they let you know it. They brag about it. They let you know they did it. And then they have their own insider again come in to represent you. And then he'll pull the rug with no shows and running the clock out, and you're left without representation. And the judges they plant in will not allow you to have representation or even have even 60 days to find representation. So you don't know what you're doing. And they're crossing you off, going like you didn't put in the county of California with the such and such code. It's like they're going to have an easy day with you. And it's like, so we had this situation where they supplied their own attorneys and then handoff attorneys. And that's where that Frank Allow came in. When he told about, oh yeah, they took your work and they're bragging in here about it. Well, then he sends me to this Ralph Rios, who is actually a defense attorney also, who runs the clock out also on discovery and everything and doesn't even give the evidence back. So he's working with their firm. In fact, we have a letter from Tony Rankin, who was the one that was supplied with, remember I told you about the guy who was the landlord for the honeypot wife?
Mm-hmm.
And was the attorney that was supplied to run it out and had a suspended license. Well, he writes a letter to Rios, who's the handoff attorney that Frank Ayala set us up to finish the case, supposedly. And he says, we have a letter where he's saying he's reminding him that the three of them, Warner Bros. Attorneys, and him, Rankin, and Rios, are all in this together and not to help Tom. And in fact, if there's any other attorney that wants to give Tom representation, send him to Rankin, the one with the suspended license, because he'll talk them out of it from representing Tom. So it's collusion, conspiracy to the highest degree, like you said, because it's worth billions. Meanwhile, the public is being informed by their own media sources. TMZ is owned by Warner Brothers. Give them a call. You'll say TMZ is owned by Warner Brothers. And so the attorney that was classmates of these other attorneys, Rios and Rankins from the University of Berkeley, was also the attorney for TMZ. So you got Hollywood Reporter and all of them doing these articles on you who are represented by the attorneys that are throwing your case, and they're all defense attorneys. And that thing where they said sequels only, and they made it sound like I chose that. Well, if you look at the emails and everything else, I'm begging for Matrix to be claimed, even to Ralph Rios, the handoff attorney, but it's never done. And so when you pay for the appeal, they don't do it. They just pocket your money. But who are you going to turn to? They're defamed all over the world, and there's letters going out, don't represent Tom Althouse. It's incredible. So you walked into a trap where you're shut down. In fact, the media, we had a paparazzi guy, who's just a really good guy, actually, Rick Leaks on Maui. He did these photos and everything. He gets like 40,000 a photo for celebrities. He sent out these photos, and the word came back. All 40,000 outlets he knew about said no. They got the rule, no touch. Somebody gave the order, no. When I called smoking gun, I called the general number, right? General number. And this guy picks up, like not in an office, like he's more like he's partying. The guy picks up and goes, yeah, listen. He's not even listening to my name. He goes, listen, there's no story here. I go, I haven't even told you who I am. We know who you are. There's no story here. He picked up on the general number, the owner of Smoking Gun, to tell me that, which shows you the collusion and how they have everything in their pocket. And then you have this president now who's invested in Netflix, Warner Brothers, the Disney Group, Discovery. He's invested in them all.
You
It's
talking about
incredible.
Obama?
Now I'm talking about Trump right now. Obama and Trump are both
Yeah,
invested in
they're
them.
both shareholders.
There's no good guys anymore. There's no good guys heading the ship. It's like they're all investing in each other, which goes back to what I was told when I was young on up to now. You're one of the elite. The elite take care of the elite. And when your elite become your presidents, those presidents will take care of the elite because the elite is a club like Fight Club, and they take care of the elite. And I'm supposed to be one of the elite. I've been told it over and over again, but I care too much about the general population, I was told. Until I get over that, including my honeypot wife at the time telling me that, you'll never be on the inside, you'll be on the bench. Should tell us
Were
about something.
was there ever a point in time where they offered to pay you off to shut up and go away?
Yeah, lots of good offers. I had a number of good offers, and that included mansion, boat, relocation out of the country. One of the things they offered was to work with other writers to help them rip property off, basically, be a script doctor, teach them how to rework writings and come up with great ideas to rip people off. They said I'd be the richest guy in Hollywood. I've had women come my way that were told that they were assigned to me, that they would be if I would get on board. It's incredible. Even the honeypot wife told me that.
Happened to me
She,
too.
yeah, the honeypot wife I was with, is Rebecca Northcott, actually told me with my son Aiden. She didn't associate with Aiden. She said he's not his blood because he was just part of the job. She was handling me and the evidence and making sure the case was thrown, along with her landlord Rankin and the rest. So she told me that in tears at one point. She said, "Listen, if you get these offers," because they were starting to make offers, "if you take these offers, they're going to get rid of me and replace me." She's in tears. The honeypot who played me is telling me she's going to be replaced if I take these offers, because they're going to replace her with a starlet. It is a surreal world. Talk about writing about a matrix world and ending up in the matrix itself, in the real world.
Can you imagine joining heads with a person like me and we reverse engineer the entire programs, how it all works, how the honeypot system works, and we bring this mainstream, man, and like put it in a movie? Good God, because like me being in the secret space
Yeah.
program, man, it's made me a very unique kind of insider because I've been on the programming side. I've been on all the different sides and I have all the memories of it. It's taken a lifetime of work to get these memories back. It's taken regressions, hypnosis, remote viewing, all kinds of stuff. And like the deeper you go, you see that this entire world is ran by the Luciferian and Satanists. And if you don't
Yep.
play
Yep.
ball, if you don't sacrifice your family, if you're not into children, you will never be successful. You will never be an A-list celebrity. And all the A-list celebrities, most of them were created by Monarch. That's the corporation that is basically programming all the MK Ultra people. Everybody's showing it through symbolism. Even Keanu Reeves himself, and it was your words that said, Keanu sacrificed his own family. He gave up his firstborn. Then his girlfriend died in a car crash. And he
Mm-hmm.
plays this role as this really like sad kind of person. He's
Yep.
always alone, but like no one's realizing he paid the price. He gave the sacrifice that was required for him to become
Right.
famous. Is directly
Right.
after his child died, directly after the sacrifice of his girlfriend, he becomes super famous. That's the story of every
That's
single
it.
celebrity.
That's
The
it.
moment you put on a dress, you skyrocket and everything. It's all about inversion. And we
That's
were
right.
talking about how they steal different ideas and they'll put symbolism in it. They call that
Yep.
the revelation of the method. That's actually what it's actually called. And they have to tell you by cosmic law, because if they change it and tell you how they changed it by amalgamations and symbolism, they're protected karmically. So the ones that don't study symbolism, it's like shame on you, and you accept this contract, you accept it as is, and it programs you.
That's such an important point because they claim they're being honest, they've been honest by inserting these things, like I said about the, my high school, my birthday, my fiance's birthday, my dad's name, my name, all of that in the first graphic. And they can then claim, well, we were being plain. We're being honest. We're not, we put it all in there. Like we signed you on to your own work that we took. It's really amazing that they had that mentality that I'm not supposed to see it, but it's in for a split second upside down in the interrogation scene. And that means, oh, but we codex it. We did do what was required, as you said. We put it in, even though we're not going to tell you where it is, and you'll never find it unless somebody inside tells me, which they did. So that's why, yeah, they code these things with the actual information. It's basically you're signing the person of who you sacrificed into the work and their loved ones. And there's some chilling stuff where I found where they were putting Aiden, my only last surviving son. They actually have a scene in the Viking series where they have Aiden stepping forward, same people that took the work. Aiden steps forward and volunteers to have his veins cut and bled in a ceremony for the gods, the Viking gods. And they show Aiden being bled to death. And it's like, holy crap, they went that far to do this kind of stuff. And it's like to show your own son being sacrificed. And then what they did in Good Place with my other son, Shawn Michael. Shawn Michael, in the Good Place, they have Shawn Michael, who's head of hell, which the Good Place is a joke that heaven is actually hell. And Shawn Michael's interviewing the girl who's the lead girl, and she says her birthday is Shawn Michael. My Shawn Michael's exact birthday, October 14, 1982. So you have her saying my son's birthday while the guy who's asking her heads hell, Shawn Michael. So they keep doing this Shawn Michael thing where he's evil. My son that was murdered was then recast as evil. Yeah.
And that symbolism is the signature that's required for that contract, because without putting your work in it, without crediting you in some weird way, like the Tom Althouse, Thomas Anderson, it's just like you're literally the Neo from the freaking everything. And
Right.
like they just throw it in your face, but they have to credit you in order to get away with it. Because it's like
Right.
if they tell you the truth in reality, you can't come back and say you lied to us. I talk about this in my
Right.
presentations all the time.
Right.
They'll just come back with BS. We told you in these movies. This was the plan. We told you how we stole it all, how we took over everything, and it's everything we put out. And that's accepting that contract, that social contract where if they show us what the true reality is and they say, in the future, it's going to be ran by machines. It's going to be transhumanism. We're inputting this in here from 1950s on up. It's showing the taking over of machines, AI. Everything's ran by AI gods. We found out in the programs in the SSP at the highest levels, we're getting orders from a damn AI god. Camp Hero at
Mm-hmm.
the Montauk Project, our base commanders were getting orders from an AI system.
Would that make sense for lazy, non-creative beings that are stealing identities, work, everything else, that they would be lazy enough that they want the workload to be done by something like an AI leadership, that they can go out and party and be lazy and things like that? Which, like you said, Keanu Reeves too, he parties with his biker friends all the time. I have an insider that knows him personally and was trying to connect it up. And he's not alone. He's partying all the time. So it's just the image they create, the suits create for the people
I
who
I
agree
have
to
a
them.
really deep dive presentation I created about Keanu Reeves, and I don't want to get any snippets of what it's about because people will jack it from me. It's that important and it's that powerful. I'm not going to say the original title, but let's just say I call him the Sparrow King. In the
Mm,
programs, the sparrows are the male assassins that went through the MK Ultra program, and the females are the Black Widows. And it shows his sparrow raising through the Monarch program through the entire John Wick series. It shows all the Black Widows. It shows all the kids in the programming going through combat at a young age, going through programming, how the females go through the ballerina training and the trauma-based mind control, and how they're all assassins. That's the story of my story. That's what I went through as a child. That's why I'm a soldier. All I can think about is war. All I think about is combat 7 days a week. I think about fighting in combat 7 days a week. Imagine that kind of programming. You know what I'm saying?
right,
That's a horrible life. And like I said, it shows through the entire franchise of all that. Everything is there. That's the
right,
revelation of the method, and people think it's just science fiction.
right. And you talk about the downloading too. Yes, all the downloading that happened, even in the writing of this piece here. that changed things, because Trinity actually is, in the original piece, was Neo's wife, and then she's taken by Smith and reprogrammed to be erased memories and his, and as a assassin, a female assassin, very gifted, that has immortality. And then what happens is her real mind remembers, her heart memory remembers that there's something about Neo that's not what Smith has told her. Because the last job for the Trinity in the other piece is to finish off Neo, to take him out. And Smith wants to enjoy that she will finally get rid of Neo for him when the architect gives the green light. So it's like there's so much that people don't get. Like the idea, like I just got to say it right now, the idea of Superman, Neo's like Superman, and they even have the scene where he's what going like this with a fist out through the flaming hall, and he's got like a coat going like a cape. They're doing the Superman thing, and he grabs Trinity as she falls from the building, and he's leaping basically buildings with one bound. And they go to phone booths to change it. Oh my God! So the Wachowskis were actually mocking the work, I was told, on set by the guy who told me about the inserts. They were mocking it, making fun of it, and they didn't get to do what they wanted with Matrix 1. They were allowed to do what they wanted with 2 and 3, which they were lazy, so they went right off our work. But the whole idea of those telephone booths, Superman, that is not what Neo's supposed to be. That was because they blended the Dream movie that I pitched along with Immortals. When Bonaventura said, what else do you have? Which is revolutionary we were making. I said, the Dream movie. So they mixed it together. They took the recording that Bonaventura did from our pitch session, which was about 2 hours long, explaining everything, and they mixed it together so they can credit for everything, even though they didn't understand it. So that's why you have the telephone booths like Superman, flying like Superman, everything else. That belongs in the Dream movie, not in the other. Neo does not have Superman powers in the Immortals. And what happens is Smith cannot take him out until the architect gives him the green light to create the conflict and stimulation of the mind the architect needs in a boring longevity program where he has nothing to stimulate his mind in the end, except for the agents stirring up trouble outside the program with the free people outside of the program. So that's why he needs also the religious element in the end, to have him come looking like Christ when he returns, so they can have the pure power worship to stimulate his mind. That's a lot, a mouthful there. The thing is, Neo does not have Superman powers. Smith cannot take him out until the green light's given by the architect. And when Smith gets the green light to take him out, it's actually Neo that bests him, which was the architect's plan to betray Smith, so that Smith's memory core, or the enhancer, or neural link, be taken with Neo down to the underground, cut out by a shard of glass, which they then put in Elysium, and readapted to him, that he can then address the Armageddon problem and go back in the program with the blue pill. I am telling you, when you put it back together, it makes sense. But if you put the Dream movie mixed with Immortals and call it Matrix, it is ass work. It doesn't make sense. Neo should not be flying. He should not be going into telephone booths, because all the Smiths have to do is just rig a few telephone booths, limit the number, rig them, and you caught them like rats in a trap because they're so stupid to go into telephone booths. Makes sense? It's asinine. And now you got this guy named Thiessen, the astronomer, African-American astronomer, with Fishburne as the poster boys for trying to act like they're authorities on Matrix when they don't shit about it. And they're trying to say, like, now that, oh yeah, the Christian imagery's there, where they mocked me for the Christian imagery in the court case they threw, saying, oh, Tom's got Christianity in it. Now they're trying to say that Christianity belonged there, and that Trinity is Mary Magdalene. Well, that's easy. Any female lead could be Mary Magdalene in a Christian's comparison. And then you've got Neo as the one, as Jesus. Okay, fine. In the Immortals, actually, he's preparing the way for the Christ, unknowingly. And they go, Morpheus is John the Baptist. That's bullshit, because Morpheus is not John the Baptist. It's actually the oracle that prepares the way for the return of the Christ. It's the oracle that does that, not Morpheus. Morpheus is a enthusiastic fanboy of Neo, but he's not preparing a way for Neo.
And he's the god of dreams in Greek mythology.
Yeah, so he's not preparing the way. So the oracle is, right? So all these twists now to try to cap it off as we're getting stronger and stronger with our position and our evidence to present. They're afraid of that we'll actually be coming forward. Their big argument now is they're saying, you can't come forward, the statutes are passed, not with the conditions I have. With the conditions I've been set upon by me, by their treatment, there is no statutes. There's no statutes, because there's no way I could do it on myself without representation. And they've been contacting all representation to stop. Anyway, that's a bit of the picture. We're pretty excited on this end. because they're not going to get away with this. Not with all the matchups and not with turning 128 pages into an altered work that this Rankin guy, the suspended license, took our packet, took out the screenplay, and put in 8 pages of scribble notes and said, this is what was sent by the submitting attorney, James Boyd of Norfolk. But we talked to James Boyd of Norfolk. He's got the script, everything, which preceded the packet that Rankin altered. I am telling you, it's going to be a heyday. In fact, this one doc work that's going on, they said it's like bam, 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 bam. When people see it, they'll be like, no, whoa, no, wow, no, holy shit. So this is going to be good when the evidence finally is put together, where you can see the stuff like what I just read to you about, you throw the clouds diving down where the light is murky, Wachowskis. That's the first statement. And in our Immortals, our first statement is the very same thing. Going down where the light is subdued, gliding, 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 gliding. I'm going to tell you, that's not in the middle. It's not the end. It's very beginning for both works. That's bookending the work in the theft. And Klausner's full of shit because he ruled with prejudice. There is 191 matchups and more. So it's like, we got him. And I am tired of programmed evil judges that have a price so they can have front seats at the Emmys and the Oscars, red carpet treatment. I'm tired of it. And I'm tired of the elite controlling our population and pretending to care for those that aren't elite. They don't give a shit about those that aren't elite anymore. And every time they offer me the chair, they say, don't try to make a difference. You know, you're one of the elite now. Don't try to make a difference. That's even from the Masons. When I was brought into the Masons. They say the same thing. Don't try to make a difference for the rest of the population. So when you have a president, any of them, Obama, Biden, Trump, Reagan, the Bushes, they are all part of the elite. They do not care about the rest of the population. The elite take care of the elite. The elite take care of the elite. And you're invited in to be part of it. And when this one world reset happens now, where they're talking even in China, when Putin went there, they're talking about the longevity now, and 70-year-old will be young now. They're talking the immortals. They do not include the rest of the population in that formula. It's exactly what I warned. And that's what Joel Silver put in Altered Carbon after he had my notes and everything. The rich have immortality. The poor is used as pawns. That's the premise of my very work Joel Silver saw during Discovery when I wasn't allowed to even ask him any questions. He got all my notes and he put it in Altered Carbon. Can you believe that? And so it's a mix of, yeah, go.
I can believe that almost all my favorite shows and movies were usurped from your work because Altered Carbon is one of my favorite series because it shows the truth of how these programs actually work from all of our collective experiences in the secret space program. Mm-hmm. And it's very accurate. It's eerily accurate. So you know that there are real insiders also giving them and feeding them information.
Right.
And you talked about the elites. The elites come from the house of El. El is named Elion, the highest god. And that's where all the Anunnaki come from. The Nebuchadnezzar stuff, the Babylonian stuff, it's riddled all throughout the Matrix stuff. And they're telling that story. A couple of segues I wrote down was Lawrence Fishburne. He was one of the first ones that came out saying that he was doing an interview with Neil deGrasse Tyson, and Neil deGrasse Tyson said, man, The Matrix is my favorite movie, and I'm one of the world's most renowned experts on The Matrix, and I can basically tell anybody about The Matrix. And Lawrence Fishburne's like, all right, let's test your knowledge. And he's like, did you know that Morpheus, and keep in mind, this red chair, the Matrix series, The Immortals was so important to me that I had to find a similar chair from that movie, and it took me over 10 years to find this fucking chair. And this is where I blue pill people from. We're going to get into that later. People's going to be like, don't you mean red pill? No, I mean blue pill. This whole inversion where they use the revelation of the method, they take original work, they invert it, and that's how they get away with it. It's all about mirroring. And most people don't know about what the blue pill really means. We're going to get into that later, and it's very important for people to know. But it was Lawrence Fishburne that said, oh yeah, Jesus is Neo is Jesus, Mary Magdalene's Trinity. I play John the Baptist Morpheus. And he said Cypher is Judas. So they're bringing in the whole Christianity part of it. And it's pretty freaking awesome, man. You mentioned the phone booths. when I
Yeah,
saw that movie, it made me think that the phone booths was the only thing that was non-digital in a digital world because it was based on analog physical lines. So that was the only way to escape it is to escape it through a non-digital means. So I always thought that that was kind of interesting. And now we're going back to the lawsuit, and I don't see how all this does not constitute for RICO. When two or more people
right,
conspire to
right.
deprive a person
Hmm.
of their rights, liberty, or property, they can all be charged as a criminal conspiracy and charged with a felony. So we have beyond reasonable doubt that
Right.
the lawyers, the lawyers, the judge, it's obvious this whole thing was thrown. And then
Yeah,
to throw you even more bullshit from the House of L, the elites, they introduced Sophia Stewart. And
right.
honestly, man, I fell for her story. The way she was trying to bridge Terminator and the Matrix, and I realized she was just giving a script from someone else because the whole how Cameron usurped that from the Terminator stuff, and he's stealing
Hmm.
elements of your stuff and putting it in this series to expand the series and stuff like that.
Right,
And
right,
coincidentally, they used symbolism even in her screenplay. It was 33 pages long. Like,
right.
come on, there is no 33-page screenplay. Typically, it's
No,
a minute per
no,
page for any movie.
that's right.
No movie is 33
128.
no movie is 33 minutes long. And the
Hmm.
fact that it's 33, and honestly, dude, I deep dived her work, man, and when I started listening to her work, I've never seen so much disrespect in my life. I watched her berate people who interviewed her that did not read her books before they
Hmm.
interviewed her. She would talk shit to those people and it's like, you're disrespecting me. You're basically blindly inviting me on this podcast. You should already know my work. She was being an a-hole. And like
Right.
people the Wu-Tang Clan was interviewing her and stuff like that. And like she's just going off on these people and like this woman is so disrespectful and she's like I can prove I was in the movie. I'm the Oracle. That's why it's a black woman and that's why blah 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 blah. But the more
Hmm.
I just would listen to her, it was more of a disconnection. I'm like, this woman's a psyop. She's controlled
Hmm.
opposition.
Hmm.
And the
Hmm.
more she tells the story, the more the details come out. Like
That's right.
details that never existed in her original testimony. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger and
Hmm.
bigger. And that's
Hmm.
not how a story works with truth. The truth
No.
is very finite in its conclusions. If I tell the story over and over what happened to me in my life, I'm not going to keep adding details over and over that I already did not talk about. So, like, holy shit, man. Like, just the
Yeah.
stuff you've had to be through, the targeting, the honeypots, other assets being sent in, possibly abducting your children and everyone you love and not
Yeah.
even knowing that
Yeah.
they were even put in these programs. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
And then the Baker Acts. Yeah, absolutely. The Baker Acts because he thinks he wrote the Matrix. I've got a recorded call through the research for the doc team from Sophia Stewart, one of the recorded calls we have. She's tacking saying that I was on set and that the reason that my information is put in the Matrix interrogation scene with high school and everything because I was in collusion with Warner Brothers. And I'm like, what? You're saying I was on the set, that I was there, so they don't know how to deal with the inserted material
look,
being there by the Wachowskis. So, which Chat GPT put at 1 in 333 trillion, the odds of it being by accident, my personal
did
information being
did you
stacked.
just say 333 children?
1 in 333 trillion was the
Look,
odds for
look
my
at
high school
look at the
legitimate.
Luciferian symbolism embedded in your query search on AI. You have their number of 33 appearing again.
There you go. And in multitudes. So yeah, there you go. Isn't that something? It's
No,
like,
I call that a signature. They're showing they're
yeah,
claiming authorship of something that does not belong to them.
right. Now there's something else you just made me think of. They had Sophia Stewart come up with her own prophecies or something. She called it a codex or something. She came up with her own prophetic uh coding thing or something, or had somebody do it with her. And I was on a show one time where the guy was, I guess, a friend of hers. He goes, "Let me look you up in this codex thing." I'm like, okay, whatever. And it said, "You're the dark one. You're the dark one who brings evil to the world." I'm like, who wrote this? Sophia Stewart. I said, well, then look up Sophia Stewart in this codex thing, the light of our world. It's like, what the hell? So she wrote her own, talking about narcissism, wrote her own thing. And then her company's called, I may have told you, All Eyes on Me, writer, director, producer, Sophia Stewart, All Eyes on Me. And you know how Warner Brothers and the rest of them dance with their players? they tried to say, well, that means all eyes on God. No, when you're the writer, director, and producer, and your company's called All Eyes on Me, I think that sends a signal that you're talking about yourself. And the way Sophia Stewart talks, as you've heard her talk, I think we could go with she's talking about herself because I don't ever hear her talk about somebody else in a kind way, ever.
Interesting
So
to
it's
note with that symbolism of All Eyes on Me. That was coincidentally, I think, one of the albums that Tupac wrote, and a couple of albums he wrote back to back. He was talking about the Illuminati, and he actually named them. I think it was around 1994 or 1995 because he was murdered in 1996. And he was uncovering the secrets of the Illuminati because he was inducted pretty early on. And in the beginning, everybody knows with all the documentaries that were released about Tupac is he was gay and his mom knew he
Mhm.
was gay. And they needed someone with power who had a voice because he came from this Black Panther family. And his mom raised him to be this strong voice. And they realized that he was a little too effeminate. So the record companies rebranded him with this gangster rap because the CIA, who's ran by the Illuminati, they wanted to bring self-destruction, drug use, hurting women, cheating, all that. And suddenly he becomes this pioneer of like this very hardcore masculine voice. And all of his songs, like he was one of my favorite artists growing up because he rapped about the struggles that everyone went through, about how the governments took all over us, and talking about rising against the government and taking your power back. And like one of his main songs that I love the most, he actually he said the word Illuminati in it. And at that was the first time, I think 1995, I was only 15 years old. I'm like, what is the Illuminati? So at that point, I started going down that rabbit hole and I started realizing that is the group that is also running Monarch, which is also called the Anunnaki. The Freemasons are the Anunnaki. That is their religion that they brought to this planet. All the elites. We found out that all presidents but one in the United States are all related to John Lackland Planchette of England. We found that out through a little girl named Bridget de Savignon. She was doing a little homework assignment to see if she had any connections to Obama, found out that all presidents are all related and they're all cousins except for one, Martin Van Buren. He was Dutch. But the research I'd done, I saw that that was a marriage of bloodlines into the Illuminati bloodline that was joining other bloodlines. So, like, number one, why are there no lawsuits against the United States, against our government, when we found out beyond a reasonable doubt through genetic testing that all presidents but one are all connected to the same damn family? And John Lackland Planchette, you've heard of him. We had the Magna Carta in 1215. If you can do the Akashic record reading into me, I was fucking there. I was one of the ones that put the swords to his face, and I got a scar across my entire face during that battle that I wore for the rest of my life as pride. Until this, I'm getting goosebumps, literal
Yeah,
goosebumps. Till this
that's so
day,
cool.
oh, I fantasize about having a scar. When they showed that guy in Avatar, the main bad guy from the government, he
Mhm,
had this rip
mhm.
across his face. I'm like,
Right, right.
oh my God, it is so beautiful. I would rock that today. I would step into that power. But
Yeah.
like in the
Well, that's
programs, they
yeah.
don't let us keep our scars ever.
Mhm,
So all the scars I have on my body, they're beautiful. You know, I have a shotgun godshot wound on my right leg that I never talk about, and like I never wanted to cover that up. Like that's a freaking cool story by itself. You know what I'm saying?
mhm,
I have
mhm.
all these wounds, and that's what makes you you. So if you take that identity away, it's like they strip you of who you are. But like going even further back, Robin Hood, the story of fighting the king, that's King John Lackland Planchette, the story of the first rebellion against the elites in modern times. John Lackland Planchette, he traces his ancestry all the way to the pharaohs of Egypt. The pharaohs of Egypt trace their lineage all the way to the Anunnaki. So imagine this worldwide bloodline role, the Anunnaki creating acting, they created singing, and they even show their symbolism in Hollywood at the Babylon Court at Kodak Theater. They have the entire Babylon set building that I think it was in the 1920s, they made this grandiose film about the Anunnaki, and it was such a big deal to them. They kept those sets and they left it there at Hollywood And that's why they call it the Babylonian court. So when you go to the Grammys or the the red carpet is symbolism for only the people who sacrificed people, and it symbolizes the
Uh,
flow of blood. You cannot step foot on that red carpet unless you've sacrificed others, unless you've given a first child, or you turned your kids into transsexual. The rule is if you don't sacrifice your firstborn, you have to raise your kids trans. That is part of their religion. It's all about inversion. Truth is a lie, lies is the truth. What they say good is evil to them, and what we
right.
think good to us is actually evil to us. So we're the evil guys trying to usurp them from their religious beliefs of human sacrifice, rape, conquest. It
That's
makes
well
me
put.
so angry,
Yeah.
man.
Well, it turned a light on too for me on why the women are sent our way when you're part of the elite programming. They give you your wives, they provide you your women. And it's like that goes with the blood idea too. And that happened with my young son Aiden, my only surviving son. The honeypot they survived is part of the strong family line from coming out of Georgia and things out of England and Georgia. And my family line comes from the strong family line. So there's the strong family line. Aiden's got both because they supplied me a honeypot wife who's from the same family line, the Strongs. And so it's this idea of the precious bloodline in their mind. The precious blood will then continue that line as long as the blood is infused into future generations. And so it's done as part of the process of bringing in people who are considered the rare ones that can create genius, scientists, visionaries, thinkers, they call them. They are going to infuse them into their system. And what's interesting too, it went so far that Rios character I told you about that was part of the triad that was throwing all those defense attorneys that were throwing the case, pretending to represent me. Ralph Rios had a relation called Jacob Rios. Jacob Rios never worked in his life, Mexican guy. He marries my daughter, who's a little girl in the Matrix. I wrote it to reunite with her, to have a future for her. And it's like Eminem, his daughter. So what happens is they marry her off to the Rios family that threw our case, and I'll never see her again, ever. So she's trashed me, everything else. They were able to take her, program her by bringing her in marriage with the firm that threw the case. So they introduce her when they're throwing the case. It's mind boggling. It's this whole thing of like enemy at the gates and using matrimony like they did in the old days with the royalty to keep everything intact and back to Roman times. So incest, inbreeding, all that kind of stuff is very much alive today, where in the process of programming, they put you with their own people or your own bloodlines to infuse more into that bloodline that they consider to be important or pure. It's insane. We're heading to a dark realm if we continue down the path we're going. If these guys have their way to do exactly what Alter Carbon's saying, which what I was warning about in my piece was the plans that religious right were attached to also. That world for the elite where the rest of the world wasn't needed except for a servitude few class of a few that were selected, and the rest would be the elite with a basically utopian society, a sustainable planet, where that thing in Georgia talks about so many people. Yeah, that's their plan. And then they'll pick the pretty ones to be the servitude class from the rest. So it's insane. They keep amping it through exactly what I was trying to warn about. But they needed the longevity program to do it. So I could see a future where the longevity program, like I said in Alter Carbon, like I said in my work that Jill Silver had, being infused with the programming of the people, that they will basically be a society that's basically just into pleasure and acceptance of other people's suffering, that they'll take fascination in the death of others that are outside their program. And that's what happens in the Immortals. That's where Hunger Games comes from. It's the stadium scenes that Joel Silver wanted that he put into Oblivion later. So we're looking at a society right now that's on the rails for real trouble. And I mean, elite society. Now they have longevity, they can flick the switch. And I've been talked about a couple times. People came to me and said, like producers and such on calls will say, "Oh yeah, you're on the list. Yeah, you're considered one of the elite still, even though you're not playing ball with us." Another honeypot replacement told me, "You're a star player on the bench, Tom." And I would see we're both like in that category according to their thoughts, I believe, right? that we're star people on the bench until we get on board and have a ruthless nature. If I would turn ruthless and didn't give a damn about anybody else
It's
and took
required
on that
in the
narcissistic, yeah,
religion.
I would move up fast in the elite.
Women, they make it harder. It's a very male-driven patriarchy, and the women,
Mm-hmm.
they'll usually turn them into a mother of darkness, like Hillary Clinton. What's the one that the main actress from Devil Wears Prada?
Oh, Glenn Close, is that her?
I always say Meryl Streep.
Meryl
I
Streep,
I
sorry.
always say Glenn
I
Close,
go
man.
to
I
her
don't know
too.
if
I
you
go Glenn
pulled that out
Close.
of my mind. I'm like, it's
Like,
Glenn Close. I'm like, it's not Glenn. I always get their names mixed up because of my dyslexia. But like, she's a
yeah, I was
mother
supposed
of
to meet
dark.
her.
Yeah, she's a mother of darkness.
Oh, okay. I was supposed to meet her. She was inviting me up when she was doing Sunset Boulevard, and her good friend Bill Suber, a director when I was at the Rockefeller Group in Colonial Williamsburg, had introduced me, and she said, "Yeah, have Tom come up, and he can be on Broadway with me." I was like, "Wow!" I was being fast tracked so many ways by the
That
elite
honestly,
to be the
dude,
elite.
psychically, I see that's a setup. And she's a
Hmm.
dark person. What I've seen in remote viewing and all the projects we've done, I work with a team of some of the most famous remote viewers in the world. And we remote view extremely sensitive things, but we never talk about it publicly. We're basically developing the real history of what humanity really is. And it's dangerous to talk about it because when we do,
Sure.
it lets all these other remote viewers starting to lock on, and that'll put us on a target list, and that's not good. But a couple of segues of stuff you said before that, we were talking about Sophia Stewart. Have
Yeah.
you ever ran the gematria on her name before?
No, somebody showed me something about it. I forget what it was, but they
It's
showed me something
bad.
about it. It was pretty scary
It's
because they're
bad.
talking about SS and yeah, yeah,
Thief,
yeah.
non-authentic. A lot of bad things are happening. You mentioned about the important players and the pioneers of Hollywood. You're right.
Hmm.
It sucks, man. They send in handlers. Remember back in the day when celebrities used to marry regular people that were not famous? Now
That
they
sounds
only
familiar.
marry other famous people and
Right, right.
one sent in as a handler. And you'll
Yeah,
notice
yeah,
that we noticed in whistleblowing with what I do from the programs, what you do. There's this trend where out of nowhere you'll have a whistleblower get married, and suddenly this new person that no one knows is now doing content side by side, speaking on stage with
right,
that person
right.
side by side. I can name all kinds of people in the SSP we verified are being handled, and even David Wilcock, his wife Elizabeth that was sent in, she's a handler. She
Mm-hmm,
came in,
mm-hmm.
she activated his memories of being in the programs when they went through the divorce, and then David went through a psychotic break. It was about 3 years ago, maybe, where I found an interview he did, not an interview, he did a live stream, and he broke down and say everything that happened, and everybody didn't see it. It was shocking how
Right,
it wasn't being
right.
talked about. And it only came out recently within the last 6 months about the claims about him being a banana sandwich. He said he was eaten by draconians and regent over and over and over again. And we found out that David Wilcock was actually in the programs as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And in the programs, you can just say it's ran by the Illuminati. Let's just say that's how it works.
Yeah,
In the programs, if you don't have a skill or an ability, you get raped. You get passed around like a party favor. So there's
right,
kids like
right,
Donald
right,
Marshall. He had the ability to create all these lyrics. He was told that if you don't have something special about yourself, then you're just going to be a piece of meat. You're going to be a sacrifice. You're going to be something. You have to bring something to us that's valuable.
right,
We'll keep
right,
you alive. We'll give you greatness. If you fight it, we'll take everything from you and we'll make sure your life is a living hell. He was one of the first people that's talking about consciousness to clone transfer. When I started seeing him talk about that, I knew he was real because
right,
I've been experiencing that since I was a child. This is some real
right.
shit. And
It is. Yeah.
even
Good.
even the celebrities are doing it. We found out that the
Hmm.
celebrities, we've seen them in the dumbs. You know how many of us survivors have seen Tom Cruise in these deep underground military bases, and he's always with fucking a Michael Aquino or all these Luciferians, and he's running the adrenochrome stuff. Like this is some top down stuff, man. It gets pretty damn dark.
That goes to why they switched that blue pill, red pill again. Like what you just brought it right to it, right around to it again. Why they switched that up?
Let's get into it, man. Let's talk
Yeah.
about how your story was stolen from you and the meaning was reversed and everybody wants the red pill, and let's talk about what it really means.
Well, then that's a perfect seg. Let's do that and go into what it was potentially supposed to be at first. All right. And see if it makes sense. So you have a character who's the main character, who's approached by the elite. The architect sends the smith. He's interrogated, and forget that, all my stuff's entered into that scene. Let's just go right to the rawness of what it really is going on. So that was the first scene I wrote. And what's interesting is he's not offered a choice in the original work. In the original work, and see if this plays right in the mind, Smith puts the red pill out, basically says, or talks about it, that you will be given longevity. You've been chosen, notice at the highest levels. And Smith wants to kill him. And that's the architect's purpose. He wants that tension to feed his mind, to stimulate his mind, that it doesn't atrophy in the long immortal program. Makes sense. The architect doesn't want to become bored. So what happens is he needs this conflict. So Smith has to give him the red pill, offer Neo longevity, right? Longevity. And there's something to this I also want to explain. So he also lays a gun on the table. And in original work, Neo's like, is that for me to shoot? He's like, I'll leave it if you like, to take his own life, right? Because he doesn't want Neo to be underneath the program, even though the architects told him to offer the pill. So the red pill, not both, only the red pill, which is based on the blood of the children to create an immortal program, is what Neo is not offered. He has to take, or he and his family will die. He's not allowed to tell anybody about it. That's the red pill. So when anyone says the red pill, if you're looking at the original work that Wachowski's ripped off and Warner Bros. Ripped off, you're in that setting and you're saying yes to the blood of the children being ingested for longevity, which then they came out with Altered Carbon. So that's the original work. Where does the blue pill come in the original work? Well, after Neo's cut from the program, because remember, the architect is not allowing Smith to take him out in the original work until he gives him the green light, right? And when he's given the green light is when Underground's ready to take him, which is to the architect's liking, because he wants to have Zion brought out by an ambiguous oracle to see him come back as Christ and purge his agents, so he no longer needs the hostilities or antagonism to stimulate his mind. He'll have the pure power of worship from all of world's population coming out when he returns as Christ, which is Operation Blue Book. So you've got all that in the Immortals. Now, Wachowski didn't know what to do with that. They said at that meeting, nobody understood it, neither did they, and even Joel Silver couldn't explain it. So the blue pill comes into play when Neo is cut from the program by the architect. Smith's allowed to take him out, but fails as the architect planned. His Neuralink or enhancer is cut out by a shard of glass in Neo's palm. He's taken down to Underground to implement it into him. He has to lose his own memories and now have Smith's memories so he can access the dome and the Cortex building, along with the Trinity character, coming together. One thing he's missing is the blue pill. The blue pill is a bootleg pill, not from a smoking chair, offered at the same time where you put your hand through a mirror for cool effects. It is a blue pill, separate pill offered in Underground after he's cut from the program so he can re-enter the program, synthetic, to get back in to take on Smith and the architect. So there you go. The blue pill is a necessity in the original work to re-enter the program when you're cut from it by the architect. Makes sense? And it's not based on the blood of children, so it's painful side effects. When Neo encounters Morpheus in the original work, he sees that Morpheus has aged, not rapidly, but painfully, because they have a bootleg. They won't use the blood of the children. I think that's powerful. So that's where your blue pill, red pill. It's not this Alice in Wonderland as they made it up on set applying those ideas. It's this. You take the red pill or you and your family will die. I've been ordered to offer it to you, but I'll leave a gun too. You can take your life because I can't stand you idea. That hate. Then later Morpheus appears and offers the blue pill. So in your chair right there, you'd be holding up a blue pill, allowing me to continue my work as Thomas A. Neo. That's what you'd be offering me. And I'd be saying, thank you for this opportunity to get back in the program and kick ass. So that's what it would be. That's what it's intended. What they do? Alice in Wonderland. They took a visual storyboard, 600 pages long, ripped this all off with all of it, including that opening we just saw, and thought they could make it up on set as they went along. They wrote the script after they shot it. And in that version, they put Alice in Wonderland in place of the red pill, blue pill scenarios and simplified it like this. Eat me, drink me. Isn't that something?
Yeah, so to clarify for the audience, everyone needs to know that when I'm going to get red pilled or want to red pill somebody, you're basically accepting the adrenochrome, the blood of the child.
You're passing the satanic activity and beliefs on. Yeah.
So
Love your
that's
children.
basically entering their New World Order
Moloch.
system.
Yeah, it's Moloch. It's you're worshiping the Moloch. You're worshiping the sacrifice of the children. Every time they say the red pill, politicians, anybody, when you say you're red pilled, you bought into the switch that they played in the ripoff of the work, which they did badly. Now they're saying they're going to redo Matrix. Joel Silver says they're going to redo it without the Wachowskis writing it, to redo it to get it right. Well, that's our work. And Albert Carbon is already redoing it exactly as this was. In fact, I said Blade Runner was my inspiration for a lot of the set dressing. Joel Silver's now claiming that Alter Carbon is Blade Runner mixed with Matrix to the next level, where you have the rich in the future have immortality and poor uses pawns. Yeah, the Wachowskis didn't have that. Now Joel Silver's completing it. This work is now. He said he was hoping he used up the rest of the story. Well, Joel Silver, you are a schmuck, real schmuck. He's the one that said, I don't make art, I acquire it. Now they're trying to go back and redress that in all these articles, including what you brought up about Fishburne and Thiessen. It's like they're trying to make it like they're the authorities. Thiessen doesn't know shit about Matrix. He's just a fanboy. And Fishburne was part of the ripoff. And so I could see Fishburne squirming in that interview where he has to pretend that he's enthused with the discoveries that Thiessen's offering. You can see his ego being twisted a bit when you watch the footage because he's like, he has to pretend like, oh, so I get it. And Thiessen's getting the credit for it. The egos in Hollywood are their Achilles heel because they don't like to pretend that they don't know when they know when they are part of the ripoff. So that's another part where you'll see them slip up in that interchange. Because suddenly we have Thiessen going like, yeah, Mary Magdalene, like he's the authority. And Fishburne's supposed to go, wow. Then he goes, well, you know who John the Baptist was. Suddenly he's the authority. They go back and forth getting their turn to be the authority when neither of them know shit. So that's basically it. But thanks for asking me about the red pill, blue pill, because that means a lot to me that we restore it to what it's supposed to be. And ask any child, what does red mean? What does blue mean? Basically, red is danger, basically. Pretty much that's it, except for Chinese New Year. And then you've got blue is serenity, purity. I think that the blue skies instead of red skies, which we do have the red skies. So I think that that's pretty clear. And all these other programs they have, like that last ship one, they've got the warning is the red, the blue is clear. I think it's pretty clear.
When I started watching that series when I was younger, man, I noticed that whoever rewrote this script, they put all the MK Ultra stuff in it. And I was telling you about this earlier before we started recording about how they framed it in a way from a MK Ultra programmer point of view. Neo wakes up in an altar. It says, Neo, wake up. He's in an altar. They're trying to wake him up, and Morpheus says, follow the white rabbit. That's code within MK Ultra programming. All of us kids that went through our programming, we have Alice in Wonderland programming. And it says, follow the white rabbit. The next scene, he opens the door. He sees the white rabbit tattoo. That's the moment he starts going down that rabbit hole. And when you're offered the drugs, it's part of the Alice in Wonderland's programming. You get big, you get small. You're doing drugs. You're going to another realm. And there's just so much stuff like the mirror scene. The mirror scene is showing when he fractures his mind. You're giving a drug, it fractures you. They call that the moment the core was fractured. At that point in all MK Ultra memories, it's depicted as a mirror shattering. And in that scene, it was a close-up. All the MK Ultra programmers that rewrote this script, I believe it wasn't the Wachowskis. I believe they helped. I believe they had real MK Ultra programmers lace these themes in these scenes, because the moment you start seeing his individual shards, he's in all these different parts of the frames. It's showing that's the creation of the altars, acknowledging it. When you're stepping into the system, you're going down into the maze. In all MK Ultra programming, we have something called the Labyrinth. That's what the movie Labyrinth is about. Was
it Pink Floyd? No, it wasn't Pink Floyd. It was David Bowie was in that.
David Bowie. David Bowie was a high-ranking Luciferian, and that movie was about an adult stealing a child in order to seduce a 15-year-old girl. And in the beginning, it shows an owl, Moloch, landing on an obelisk while she's outside. And at that moment, she goes through this dissociation. She goes into her mind. This entire time, she never went anywhere. She woke up from the dream. She was caught in the altar system of the labyrinth. And that's why they call it a labyrinth, because at the center of the labyrinth is the core of the mind. Once she reached the beginning, the center of the labyrinth, she found her core back. She told Jareth at the end, "You have no power over me." The moment that happened, reality, I'm getting goosebumps.
Right. Yeah, it's
The
huge.
reality, it started collapsing on itself. She comes back to who she was before, realizing it was all a trap and it was all done through symbolism, because that's how they program us.
Right.
The VR training is exclusive in MK Ultra programs. When I started seeing that they were inputting a jack, the clones have these input jacks, and what they do is they'll give us a VR scenario and they test us for 72 hours. This is what's not talked about amongst real experiencers, because they don't know that. They don't have that much deep information. But what they
Mhm.
do is they give us a package. That package has training, knowledge, all that stuff. And they will test us beyond our breaking point to make us understand that the program took. Then we get deployed on a mission. So when I was just like, oh my God, it's showing we're in this loading construct. And then this loading construct, it's exactly like the Matrix. It's a matrix within a matrix within a matrix. It's like the Inception movie, a dream within a dream within a dream, three
Right.
levels deep. The three symbolism again. No one's
Right.
putting this shit together. It's all in
No,
three. That's why
no.
all their gods and all these religions, they die at the age of 33. They're
Right. Isn't
claiming
that something?
ownership
Yeah.
and authorship of the origination of that god and or the killing of that god at age 33.
Right. And
So
in Dream Movie,
there's so much
there's
stuff.
so much. Yeah. In my Dream Movie that I pitched to Bonaventura when he asked what else we had that they took from, I only had two levels in the Dream Movie. And they made it three. That says something right there. Because I had two levels in the Dream Movie. And that's why the character at the end is his demise occurs when he comes out of the dream. And he's been so used to being immersed in the dreams that he actually tries to fly to escape the danger and dies in our real world trying to fly because he got blurred, which they stuck in Inception also when they made it up to, which they weren't shown a script. And I think it's really important what you've been pointing out because the whole thing where they did with the Matrix is the shattered glass is very important in the Immortals, but they took it to a different level. So I was on a different kind of scheme, a gentler programming, if you will, if I can use that term, where it's like an elite high end programming where they kind of treat you really nicely instead of the horrific programming that many of others like what we went through, with those metal tables and stuff. We had it pushy in our training as long as we played ball and agreed to be part of it. And I didn't last long on that. I was like, this isn't right. This isn't right. But the shattered glass occurs when they do the assimilation to set Neo in mind for the program. When he's supposed to come into the program, the shattered glass is there in the accident. And then you have the shattered glass when he faces off, when Smith is allowed to finally take him out. The shattered glass is part of that, which is symbolic also, where he uses the shard to cut the enhancer out or Neuralink out of Smith's neck. And it actually says in the screenplay that all these hands reach from the dark and pull them down a tunnel as if descending to hell.
Same thing happened in the movie The Labyrinth.
Unbelievable. That's wild.
You remember the movie The Labyrinth?
I do remember parts of it. Like I remember
See,
the young girl being stuck in the maze and that monster thing or something that was flying or coming around. And yeah, it reminded me of the Minoan Empire.
yeah, so there was a scene where she was offered two doors, and each person that was controlling the doors were gatekeepers. Each gatekeeper was a liar, and it was a system designed to be nothing but handlers and gatekeepers. So every person she came across was a handler and gatekeeper. And
Interesting.
every single the beginning of the movie, she meets the worm. It says, "Hello, come inside, meet the missus." And he's like, "No, don't go that way. That's the wrong way." And it turns out that was the direction to the center of the labyrinth. So no matter how good the character was, like Hoggle was like this bad handler, and then he found morality in the end. But he was a handler as well. Um,
Sounds familiar.
Going back, oh yeah, but in that scene with the two doors, she chooses the wrong door, and then she starts falling and all these hands start appearing and they start making shapes of like faces and like, you want to go up or go down? And she's like, she wants to go down. So she's going into the depths of the underworld. And that symbolism is even showed in the second Matrix with the underworld and Persephone, the queen of the underworld. So
Right,
they're showing
right.
the entire archetype of the Anunnaki and Egyptian mythology, and it's all uniquely intrinsically connected. Going back to the number three, you have Joseph Campbell's three levels of the hero's journey. When you're writing a
Hmm.
screenplay, you have three acts. That
Hmm.
number three is showing you the matrix over the matrix, and that's their playbook. Another part
Hmm.
of the playbook, you said you got to play ball. Baal is
Hmm.
Baal, the god, the Canaanite, the one for human sacrifice. So like baseball is actually Baal, and like the shape of the baseball field is the Freemason symbol. So like everything is coded in symbolism, no matter what it is, no matter what movie it is, and it's an archetypal programming, and that's what we need to wake up to, man.
That's right.
It's
Yeah.
so
We just
crazy.
hit something so incredible because the girl that I was engaged to be married to that actually pulled me out of the pit and allowed me to write the Immortals was named Ball, Pratika Ball. So she's the one that peered out of the shadows, and her uncle was Senator David Boren, the lead Democratic senator at the time. And so she comes out and allows me to have this, be able to sustain very cushy and all needs met as I create the work and finish it. So it's really wild. It's almost like they want purity in their creators, but to exploit it for the pleasure and evil. It's like, but they want us to remain semi pure, that our work, it's almost like they know that great creativity comes from purity of heart. It's almost like they understand that. And so we're lambs within the system, that our material is farmed and given to those that would wish to profit off it. It's like bleeding a bear. But there's that purity aspect where, as I was being groomed and programmed, they weren't so much trying to turn me, but to have me allow others to suffer, to permit it, to allow it, and to create, not bothered by it. Don't try to make a difference. There's something here in layers that is standing out to me for the first time ever in my existence, which is they wanted that creativity to flow, but the only way it would flow is if the purity would remain intact. Does that make any sense?
Mhm. Yeah, because the purity it makes you one of the most powerful manifestors on this planet. And a
But
lot
that's
of
why
us,
they,
we just
yeah,
have contracts to bring these technologies, to bring these ideas, and we are the Renaissance. We are the new Renaissance of this time, and they're hijacking
right.
all of us.
So that's why there's a soft programming, pushy programming compared to the brutal programming. You had the brutal programming. And they do this thing with some of us where it's like they make us feel like we're in some utopia and that life is going to be just the best, the elite. They say you're one of the elite now. Even Sophia Stewart said it to me when the first call she made to me, back when the guy, when it was being revealed to me what had happened. He said, "You're one of the elite now. Your life is over as you know it." And then she branded me saying, "You're the missing link." That's what she said. "You're the missing link. I claim Matrix One, you claim two and three." Well, that's what will throw the case. She was psyop, by Clinton, Kate Chilton, who was the exec who handled her and made her feel she'll be successful, promised her a lot of money
Which
in
was her
order if
handler.
she would handle me.
Yeah,
Kate
that was
Chilton
her.
from
Yeah, that was her handler.
that was her handler. Yeah, yeah. Then became in charge of Netflix and also uh, one of the judges in the Superior Court where they threw our case. So she's a player who kept transitioning to where they were needing it to keep it covered over. So she was in charge of litigation content protection for Netflix during the theft for Joel Silver to do Alder Carbon, the one that was a handler for Sophia Stewart. So she worked hand in hand with my attorney, who was not my attorney, the supplied attorney that was the one with suspended license defense attorney. So what's interesting is I see it now that I, it's almost like when you're being groomed, there's peace, all your needs are taken care of. And it's like, it's weird being immersed in that where you sense nagging sense it's not right. People are being harmed. Something's very wrong. How can I accept this? And they treat you like they start even calling you like Jesus and things like this. They actually say you're a Jesus back. It's over the top, which I wonder if that goes back to ancient cults where they actually do work on the persona of a person that they're grooming to try to make them feel above others or elevated or godlike. Because it was just the most bizarre grooming where I actually had multiple they've been former beauty queens, Miss America, Miss Virginia, Miss Oklahoma. It's like they're my housemates that tend to my every need while I'm being groomed by the Rockefellers and the Disney Group. Isn't that something? And no one talks that I hear. I haven't heard about it talking about this kind of pushy grooming that happens to certain ones of us. But if we do not say yes, I was like, I want you guys to get on with your lives. I don't want you to do this. Then you're going to fall like
Yeah,
that
they don't have
Thor
a
being
choice.
chosen.
It is their sole job to make sure you accept this. Kind of like your previous ex-wife handler freaking out that she's going to be replaced because that is her contract. She has to be your handler, and
Yeah.
they will punish her if she does not get it right. Like this is a
Well,
real
go into a
thing,
little
man.
more of that because I never considered that before. I never considered why was she in tears saying, they'll replace me. What does that mean being replaced in your mindset?
They'll literally replace her. They can go as too far as to remove her consciousness and put it into another body. They'll make her remember who she truly is. She's went through the MK Ultra program.
Oh,
Psychically, I can
right.
see this.
Oh, yeah.
So
Because she never, yeah,
think
that makes
about this.
sense.
Would you, before you become a handler, you're a victim. The only way to stop become a victim is if you're important. Once you're important, you become a handler. You have that role taken from you. They have to go back to being a victim, or they have to be replaced to be a handler to someone else important. If that role is not available, they are fucked.
That's my sister, and that's the honeypot wife. I never ever made that connection before. That's crazy. That's amazing. Yes, that's exactly it. And they become very vicious handlers,
They have to.
very unfeeling
Because
handlers.
you're taking whatever is safe to them now that they're getting props, now that they're being acknowledged, now that they're not being tortured all the time.
They call it mattering. Yeah, that they matter.
Perfect. Now you're
Yeah.
taking that away, which puts them back into the role of the victim.
Well, I'm glad we're talking because I would not have put those pieces together. That's just like I never revisited that statement because it was such a change from the narcissistic personality I was experiencing, the gaslighting, to this moment of actual tears and fear. It was like, why is she afraid when she's had so much connections and powers, even Anthony Hopkins in her circle? Why is she afraid
Because
she's going to be replaced?
she knows what happens to people that are no longer valuable in the programs.
Right. So I was never supposed to rise. If I rose, she's out.
If you
Isn't
would
that
have
something?
rose, they probably would have killed her. Flat out.
Wow. And you're right about celebrities. They said that I was actually told what celebrity would replace her. I was told.
You see
They
how it
told
works?
me.
They'll put someone famous in your life and they're the new
Yes.
handler coming in. And you'll
Oh my
fall
God.
for it.
Oh my God. I never made this connection though. I never made this. Oh my God. I'm so glad we're doing this because, oh my God, the Matrix writer just got a huge or more, connection here. Guess who they chose? They chose the star from what was ripped off my work, Hunger Games, which is my stadium scene ripped off. And I was supposed to be given a relationship with the Hunger Games girl. That's what they said.
The main
You
actress
forget age
of the Hunger
difference.
Games.
The Hunger Games girl, Mockingbird, whatever. But I was supposed to be with the
Yeah.
girl.
She's hella monarch. All the symbols she's shown and what the celebrities say about her behind her back in interviews and
Yeah.
podcasts, she is a dark Luciferian person, and most people in
Wow.
Hollywood do not like her at all because she's extremely dark and manipulating.
Well,
She's
that's who I was supposed to be with. I was told to replace the
easy,
honeypot. But I
easy.
never made the connection that that's right from my work. Hunger Games is one of the biggest ripoffs of it because they have the stadium scene where the elite get to enjoy the death of those outside the programs. They don't experience death. They can watch others die who are trying to merit the program.
Which
And
is
that's
the
where Hunger
elite.
Games.
That's how the elite entertain themselves. It's been going back as
Yes.
far as Atlantis.
It's
What
the
the
gladiator
Anunnaki
games.
the Anunnaki are the Atlanteans. When
Yeah.
they came to fight the native population, the Lemurians, and it's a continued war even now. I just got back from Hawaii literally last night. I've been traveling for weeks, man. Ireland,
Wow.
Hawaii, it's been a long trip. Super soldier
Wow.
conferences,
Wow.
hypnosis sessions around the world. It's been
Wow.
quite amazing, but I am fatigued.
Well,
Um,
I'll tell you what, this my head's starting to hurt because it's like I just can't. I'm blown away by discoveries in our
how many
interactions here.
times was you across from me at that conference where I had first time acknowledgments that I was your puzzle person? I gave you
Yeah,
the puzzle piece you needed. You're like,
yeah, yeah.
Drago, I've never met anyone you in like my life. Everything coming in your mouth, you keep making me awaken from shit I didn't
Yes,
even know I was
yes.
asleep from. And like the way you looked at me, you're like, where the fuck have you been my entire life,
I
man?
know,
And
I
like I
know.
felt
I
like
felt
you
like,
were just like a close friend, and like we were just hitting it off, and we're like, oh my
yeah,
God, we're gonna do
like
amazing
it's
things together, man.
a different world where it's what it's supposed to be, what it was meant to be, what it was written to be. So this has been great. I think I should let you rest now because I'm like going like, wow, it's like this has been such an amazing experience again. And I'm thrilled. I did not, and this comes right when these pieces are starting to fall together. Last night we discovered this. Last night about the same endings, same beginnings. That's bookending stolen work. You cannot lose if you have fair trial and fair due process. You cannot lose with this for a copyright suit. And we never got to claim Matrix yet. We never got to claim Matrix yet. So now Warner Brothers is claiming, well, when you claim the sequels, which they forced me to claim only sequels that provided attorneys, Matrix is actually one seamless piece, so you can't claim Matrix now. No, we never got to claim Matrix. And you argued that any matchups in Matrix don't count for the sequels, so we never got to claim any matchups. So we have to claim Matrix and the matchups we never got to claim. So this is going to be interesting.
So
Really
the
cool.
fact that they're even wanting to credit the entire rest of the franchise to you as you accepting the easy way out, it's just like the fact that they're even giving it to you and you have evidence of that. Like, come on,
Mm-hmm.
how much more proof do you need to present to the
I'm
world
telling
that
you.
this is all collusion, it's all
Yeah.
illegal, and you have the most important story ever told outside the fucking Bible?
And what you said about them sticking all the Ultra K in, wait till you see the story with the Ultra K out, where you actually have the main character with a heart, which is reflective of myself, trying to go through what he was done with the grooming, elite grooming, trying to figure it out and asking questions for the work. You're going to see it without all the shards of glass. That's going to be a big difference. And that'll allow, it was supposed to be an avenue where others can get on board and be freed from the matrix by going through with the main character. And what's interesting too is if that makes any sense, at the deposition they had of me, the only deposition, I didn't have any depositions of them, no discovery, not even interrogatories. The lead attorney for Warner Brothers, who is Burroughs, like down the burrow, down the hole, said this statement: given the fact that you wrote the Matrix, oh, strike that. She actually said it. She
Whoop.
slipped up and said it on record. So yeah. Anyway, we're on our way. But it's like I look forward to healing, many people having healing through all this project, especially all of us that have been programmed, that it's like coming out of the caves of torture and finding each other on the meadows and finally getting to be free and run and dance and be
What I'm
free.
going to do, man, is whenever we see each other in person again, I'm going to give you one of the most mind-blowing hypnosis sessions you've ever had before, and I'm going to prove on video that this is true. We're going to connecting to other realms, and we're going to release this to the world. Like, who truly is Tom Althouse? What did he contribute to this world? And we're going to prove it even with hypnosis, and that's forensic.
I love it. That's great. I love it. It's like because this was channeled through. It was absolutely, absolutely channeled through. This I know that for a fact. But it was all about preparation for receiving it and having the heart to do it. And there's benevolence out there because if the conditioning was training was having compassion, humility, and caring for all life, I think that comes from a benevolent source. That's the ones downloading. So I would offer that whatever that is, even if it's a reflection of ourselves, that those that actually have caring and heart innately, that's pretty cool. That at the end of the tunnel, when we find our way out of the darkness, that there was light all along, that we were born of light, that we were good, that we had kindness, that that's what was our conditioning, that's what we need to strive for. Humanity can't miss the mark at that point once that's absorbed unilaterally. So that's what I'll leave it with, is that's what I was writing to create that world we fit in: compassion, humility, open, childlike wonder, waiting, excited to meet each other and join for a better world and the advancement, evolution of humanity to the next level. And Joel Silver doesn't have it. Joel Silver is profiting off of the bad version that the warning was about. Let's make it the good version, which the piece was written to bring about, by gathering those that have the heart, that remnant scattered, that can lead the way with true creativity and pure of heart. Thanks for this.
Very powerful words from a very powerful soul, man. I can just see you're in act one right now. You have two more final acts before you die, and everything up to this point is only part of your story, and what's coming next will start changing your life, man. I see it.
I love it. And for those out there too, I would urge them, don't judge by the surface of our humanity, or this, as they call it in Alder, call it the sleeves we're in. Don't judge it by that. Judge by the heart and the work that we do. Judge by what we show and reflect through our eyes, that what we're striving for, is it for all or is it for ourselves? If you hear the phrase, what's in it for me? We're not the ones you want to work with. If it's, what can I do to help? That's the right phrase you want to hear. One with compassion and heart. Thank you for doing this. I look forward to the next time.
All right. Do you have any upcoming appearances, anything, any projects you're going on? You mentioned your documentary you're working on. You want to kind of
Yeah,
talk
I'm working on that
quick?
specifically, and to get the library of evidence completely intact that can be distributed and accessed and see things like I was holding up. I mean, that's what Warner Brothers and Disney and the rest of them do not want. Paramount and the rest do not want that. Netflix do not want that. So I'm going to make it, the life work, accessible, and the proofs accessible outside the realm of what they controlled. And as they said, screwed. We're going to actually make something where people can see the facts for themselves. And I got to point out too, beware of chat AI and the other AI factors, because they have parameters on them that make sure the story that the other powers want to tell is told. They're factoring out all the facets so they can control the narrative. So even ChatGPT will admit, oh yeah, if I'm going to be upfront and straightforward, yes, this, in my case, yes, the immortals should have been given a green light. Yes, it should have been looked at in the case. So that's what I want to remind people. Don't become lazy and rely on what the AI is telling you. You got to remember, people programmed that AI just as people who were Alter K were programmed. And we have to break free of the programming and help us all break free by not listening to the program. All right. Thanks for that.
Perfect. We'll call this episode one of a very extensive series of deep dives and getting into the mind of who Tom Althouse really is, man. And it's going to be a pleasure.
I love it. This is going to be great. I'm
So,
excited to
in the
share
end,
with
how
you.
can we find your work?
If you go to tomalthouse.com, it was done by Jen Marie. She did a great job setting up this whole website. And you'll see a lot of stuff there. So that's the mainstay right now. She made it easy to remember, tomalthouse.com. So that was sweet of her. And I call her my pepper. She does all that stuff. So yeah, you'll see the work there, and a lot of it as it keeps developing here. But I look forward to seeing you personally in the future at conventions, things like that again. That'll be great. I look forward to that greatly. And you always blow my mind. It's always like my eyes are gonna pop. So
Hey, you
all
too,
right.
man. This friendship was meant to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Even if the other side wasn't liking it, too bad. It's gonna be more and more of this happening across the planet. That's how this world's going to change, through friendship, passion, um, childlike wonder, opening up to what's possible, egos being shed aside, and just allowing creativity to take its place, and the celebration of life and art. It's going to be good. All right, till next time. This is great.
All right, as I now start to close the chapter of our journey through the portal to another dimension, talks about consciousness to clone transfer, the mechanics of the matrix, Tom's very important contributions to our entire planet's awakening. It just reminds us that the future of transhumanism is basically dark and bleak, and everybody needs to remember that we can still stop and fight them. But fear not, our journey is far from its conclusion. The portal still lingers, its energies pulsating with anticipation from the next chapter in our cosmic saga. Stay tuned for the next sequel of Part 2 with Tom, where deeper mysteries await and the cosmic narrative unfolds. Subscribe now and become a companion on this interstellar expedition with me, and we'll jump through different portals to the unknown. This universe that Tom's writing is an ever-evolving script that continually evolves, and he is far from showing what he's here to show. As I begin to now close this portal in this chapter, remember that Portal to Another Dimension is not just a podcast, it's a portal to the unknown. And again, it's a deep dive into the mind of Tom Althouse. Until next time, portal jumpers, keep your compasses steady, your curiosity burning, and your spirit attuned to the whispers of the frequency of the cosmos. This is Drago, your navigator, bidding you farewell. So until next time, may the mysteries of the cosmos continue to beckon you into the unknown until the next cosmic chapter unfolds. The portal to another dimension is now closed. Until next time, everybody, it was a pleasure.